KFI AM 640. It's Later with Mo Kelly. I'm live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And the immigrant marches continue. Yesterday, I told you all the things that were going wrong, all the things that you weren't doing right, and why this was not going to make any difference in the grand scheme of things. But the marches have continued on, and I think there is an opportunity to help everyone understand why certain marches have worked in the past and why some won't ever work. And it's more than just marching. Because this Day Without Immigrants movement has continued into its third day. In fact, marchers were school students, several hundred from Marshall High School. They marched in the streets, some carrying signs or a Mexican flag on their way to Olvera Street, where they chanted and held a rally. And I can say, as someone who's a student of the civil rights movement, that is honorable. But if you really want to be an effective protester, if you really want something to come out of your actions, something beyond just appearing on TV, beyond being seen on KTLA or KCOW and having your 30 seconds of fame where a microphone is being placed in front of your face, if you want something beyond that, let me help you out, because we live in an age where we think that protesting is just marching, just walking down the street with a sign and a megaphone and being heard, and then you are doing something. No, you're not really doing a lot. You're making some noise. But why the civil rights movement was successful was far more complicated than just marching. Marching was just one tool. But this is just for anyone who wants to plan a protest, anyone who maybe wants to inspire the government to do something different, wants their grievances to be heard and change to actually be made. Please listen to me right now, because I want to give you something which made the modern civil rights movement successful that is not being used today. And if you learn just some of the history, you would be better informed, prepared, and ultimately more successful. Part of the reason why the modern civil rights movement, I'm talking about the late 1950s into the late 1960s, part of the reason why that movement was successful, and it was over about a 10 to 12 year period. It wasn't like 10 to 12 days, 10 to 12 years, depending on when you mark the actual start of the civil rights movement. But if anything, the modern civil rights movement had a clearly defined goal. Legislative goal. In other words, they were making sure that all these efforts were pointing toward the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. That was the goal. In other words, the ask. What is it you're demanding of government? That's why Dr. King was meeting with then President Kennedy. That was the ask. That was the whole point of the March on Washington. Okay. Now, what were the methods used to gain leverage? It's because people in power, governments are not just going to give you something. The Congress is not just going to sign something because you're out there marching. You have to have some means of leverage. For the civil rights movement, one of those examples was the Montgomery bus boycott of 1955, where Rosa Parks, I think on like February 4th of 1955, if I'm not mistaken, decided to not sit at the back of the bus. That was one instance of civil disobedience, but it set off the Montgomery bus boycott, which lasted more than a year and brought the bus company to its knees economically and forced them to address the concerns of Black Montgomery residents. There was a plan. People had to help carpool. They were taking random strangers to work. People did not have transportation because they refused to use any of the bus lines for more than a year. That was the method to gain leverage. And the last part is, how committed are you to the fight? And that's a part of the method to gain leverage. Dr. King said, hey, we're not going to use violence. We want to be seen on national TV and seen by the world as not fighting back against the brutality, to gain the moral high ground. That was the method. And also demonstration of commitment to the fight. How long are you willing to struggle and suffer to retain your leverage and reach, hopefully, the legislative goal? And let me give you something else out of history. And this is almost like a parable or fable now in civil rights history. You might have heard it before, but from what I'm seeing out on the streets today, people don't know this, so I'm going to share it with you. Back in about 1941, President FDR sat down with A. Philip Randolph, and he was the head of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, the Pullman Porters Association. It was one of the few jobs in which African Americans could actually unionize. A. Philip Randolph got a meeting, and I'm really condensing the story, got a meeting with FDR and explained how civil rights advancement was not only good for African Americans, but the larger country, and how FDR could and should use his bully pulpit to make it happen. Because remember, World War II is going on, and you have all these issues which were happening in the military. They're going to desegregate the military. You're going to have these veterans coming home to an America in which they did not have full rights as citizens. So they're trying to preempt other problems which are going to happen in America in the event eventually World War II would end. And FDR, as the story goes, listened to the presentation of A. Philip Randolph, and he was moved. He was actually moved. He was convinced. And as the story goes, he said something to the effect of, "You have convinced me. I agree with everything you said. You are right at everything you said. Now, A. Philip Randolph, go out and make me do it. Go out and make me do it." And that is saying, go out and create the social circumstances in which I, as the president, am compelled to make these changes, and then use the bully pulpit to encourage or be a molder of consensus and push Congress in the direction to pass the adequate legislation. Mind you, that was like 1941. That legislation didn't get passed until 24 years later. But the whole point is, it's not a one-day thing. And if you're going to create the social environment in which America sees that it has no choice but to change direction regarding immigration reform, that Congress should act and pass some sort of comprehensive immigration so we can stop these raids by ICE, it's going to take more than students walking out of class on a given day. It's going to take more than people amassing on the 101 freeway or various freeways around the country and having your voice heard, as often told, or being seen on TV, or writing cute signs and getting on social media and hashtagging. You have to be able to demonstrate that there is a specific legislative end and ask for your local congressperson to follow up on, to put in a bill, to push Republican leadership to bring to the floor, to have Congress vote on it, and then create the social circumstances in which a president, any president, this president, Donald Trump, to say, I have no choice because of my own political insecurity or wanting to make sure that I can maintain the status quo of this situation, that I have to concede to these demands because there's a specific legislative ask. If you're out marching today or tomorrow, next week, and you do not have a clearly defined goal, and a clearly defined goal is more than stop the raids, then you're wasting your time. You're out there getting steps on your Fitbit. If you have not determined a course of action in which you have leverage, which forces America to listen to you and take your concerns about immigration reform seriously, you're out there exercising. If you're not committed to this fight, assuming that you care about abuelo or abuela, madre, and I'm not trying to be funny, anyone in your family who is impacted by these raids, if you're not committed to at least see this through the midterms where you could swing the balance in Congress, if you're strategic, and then create an environment where Congress can then put pressure on the president. If you're not willing to work all the way through the midterms, then you're just wasting your time, because people in power know that you're going to get tired. They're betting on you getting bored. They are sure as hell as I'm sitting here that in 2 weeks you'll have moved on to something else. You haven't heard a peep out of Donald Trump because there's no need for him to address it because the social circumstances are such, there is no reason for him to change course. If you want to imitate what happened in the 1950s and 60s with these protests, because that's the model you're using. If you want to imitate that model and also imitate the results it yielded, then you have to take all the lessons of the civil rights movement. You're going to have to define that goal in a clear sense. You're going to have a clear method to gain leverage, which makes the world, the country, the state take notice of what you do over a long period of time, not just marching. You have to be committed to it in the way that the modern civil rights movement, people were committed for years. If you don't do all three, you will get nothing. It's later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And State Farm, like a neighbor, State Farm is there. Except they're going to be a much more expensive neighbor in the near future.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Ooh, Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I don't know about you, but my concept of a good neighbor when it comes to home ownership is someone who will look out for my house when I'm not there. I think of a good neighbor as someone who I don't need to worry about. They're not going to break into my house, and they will look out for my house, especially if I'm not home. If my pets get out, they'll give me a call or do something to make sure my pets get put back in the backyard. That, to me, is what a good neighbor does. That is how State Farm bills itself, no pun intended. State Farm General is California's largest insurance provider. And did you know State Farm has requested an emergency interim rate hike, averaging 22% for each and every homeowner. 22%. Averaging. In other words, it could be 21, 20% for some, and 23, 24, 25% for others. We're talking about an average. 22 cents more on every dollar of your premium. In a letter to California's Commissioner of Insurance, Ricardo Lara, State Farm said it has already received more than 8,700 claims and paid over $1 billion to customers in the wake of the wildfires. First, I don't believe that. I don't believe that's truthful. Why? Because they have been accused of not paying off claims. They've been accused of dropping people and their policies. So as they say, excuse me, Mark Ronner, this might be a little cumbersome phrase. It strains credulity.
You know, there might be some minor flaw inherent in a business model that requires not paying people out for success. There's something about it that just doesn't sit right with me.
And I think it's a reasonable assumption since wildfires don't happen every day. I would say most of the time, they are receiving premium payments, not paying out for the most part. And also, if you listened to this show yesterday, I was speaking to Jackie Ray, and I highlighted then how State Farm's advertising budget, that's why I keep saying, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Like a good neighbor, we want more cash.
And they spent $1 billion fiscal year 2024 on just those commercials and ads that we've all seen and know. The ad budget alone, from what we know publicly, can make Southern Californians whole.
Well, next thing, you're going to have the nerve to suggest that our healthcare system is whack, too.
There is a connection when you talk about insurance premiums. It's the same, dare I say, should I call it a scam?
A racket, perhaps?
Scam, racket, scheme, synonyms, tomato, potato. It's all the same. California homeowners, we know this. We already face some of the highest insurance premiums in the country. And insurers have deemed California a risk because of wildfires. According to the company, State Farm's General's surplus available to pay out claims has been depleted, in part due to claims paid out as a result of natural disasters. Wait a minute, wait. Assuming State Farm General is telling the truth, and I don't believe them, but for the sake of argument and radio commentary, let's say they're telling the truth. They're saying that they had been depleted prior to these fires.
It wasn't depleted enough to stop them from paying their CEO $24.5 million a year.
It wasn't depleted enough for them to spend, again, $1 billion in the past year on commercials. Don't get me wrong. I really did like the commercials.
What's $1 billion get you, though? I mean, that would be involving tattooing the insides of your eyelids. $1 billion? $1
billion just on advertisements alone, commercials.
Are they carving something into the moon's surface?
I don't know. They are funny. Whoever the ad agency is getting paid out the ass, okay? $1 billion, because they only probably have one ad agency. They probably have different marketing campaigns, but it's $1 billion. If, for example, and just for argument's sake, State Farm said, you know what? We are so committed and such a good neighbor, to use their phraseology, that we're going to not advertise for the next year to make sure that all Southern Californians are made whole. We're going to use that $1 billion that we would have spent on advertising, because they spend it every year. It's not like they're broke. They have that money to spend every year, which means they have it for 2025. Maybe they have to do some funny accounting and move some of the advertising budget over to the people budget, to the insurance side, and say, we're going to spend this $1 billion in 2025 on the people of Southern California because they are more important than commercials. And if anything, we think as a business model that word of mouth advertising would mean more than any commercial with, oh my gosh, Pat Mahomes or Andy Reid or the actor Kevin Miles who plays Jake. I think people would appreciate that and would speak of the goodwill and the good neighbor policy behavior of State Farm in a way that no commercial could. And so that's why we're going to move $1 billion of our ad budget to the people of Southern California.
It's almost as if you're suggesting that an actual good neighbor wouldn't clean you out when the chips are down.
And also leave.
Oh, yes, that leaving, yes.
You know, an actual good neighbor would say, hey, you know, there's a disaster coming, but I got you, okay? I'm going to hose down your house. I'm going to make sure that your house is as safe as possible, okay?
You're getting hosed all right.
Oh, yes.
You're getting thoroughly hosed.
And they're going to charge you 22% more for that same hose. It's later with Mo Kelly. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. And some things should be just like, duh, right? Just like common sense, right? Yeah? If you're going to talk about baby changing stations in public restrooms, it shouldn't be a controversy for the city to add more baby changing stations in public restrooms, right? There's no opposition to that, right? Right? We'll find out.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And I asked the question before the break. There's not like two sides to this. There's no opposition to this, right? LA's trying to add more baby changing stations in public restrooms. Can we like touch and agree? Have you ever been to church? Touch and agree, and then you have some statement where everyone just agrees. Can we just agree that this is good?
Good
for
how?
LA?
You know, you've never had children.
No, but I'm saying that this is good, and I want you to verify this or disagree with me. Hold on.
Okay.
LA City Council approved a motion last Friday calling for more baby changing stations in city-owned bathrooms and to explore requiring businesses open to the public to do the same. 12-0 vote. There was no opposition on city council. And they're going to conduct a feasibility report about the cost of installing more baby changing stations for infants and toddlers. They're going to consider adding such stations to bathrooms located at recreation centers, parks, libraries, and transit hubs. They'll also examine whether they can update building codes for restaurants, shopping centers, and entertainment venues, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. Yes! Yes. The amount of times that I have seen fathers with infants.
Yep.
And they go into the men's bathroom, as they should, in this 21st century where men should all be going in, blah, 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 blah. And I know that there's no baby changing station in that men's bathroom more times than not. That has to be a burden on that father.
It is a humongous burden. You know what else is a burden? The fact that rules be damned, because all of these venues, movie theaters and all the like, are supposed to keep their bathrooms up to snuff. But you know what I walk into? When I walk into our AMC, I walk into a bathroom that has urine near the floor where the baby changing station is to begin with. Businesses and parks do not keep their bathrooms clean enough for you to be installing more tables for infants. You're supposed to keep infants clean and wholesome and away from piss and all that all over. No, that's a no. That's a no.
Okay. So you're more against the idea of a bathroom which is just unclean. If they clean the bathrooms as they should. You mentioned AMC. I'll just say a movie theater. I'm not trying to bust them out. You walk into a movie theater and you see on the backside of the door, there's usually that list of the times in which the bathroom was supposedly clean.
Yeah.
You know, Arthur came in at 4:30 and John came in at 5:30, and you can see there's toilet paper and feces everywhere. It's like no one's cleaning this bathroom. I think that is a related but separate issue. If that movie theater is not cleaning its bathroom, I don't know if that's an argument against having the basic facilities available. It's almost like that we're not going to have urinals in there because people will get urine everywhere. It's a bathroom. Provide the facilities.
But you know what they started doing? They said, let's just have a trough so that we can avoid.
No, they don't do that anymore. They've gone the other direction. They have flushless urinals where they doesn't have water.
No water. It just hits the ground.
Yeah.
Yes, I got you. What I'm saying is, when my children were young, I would not let them go into a park, much less me go in there. And I don't care if I see the sanitation crew coming out and cleaning it right then and there. This is a waste of taxpayer money. How do I know? Because no one is going to use this. If you're trying to do something, then maybe make or increase the number of family only restrooms. You can do that, but you cannot put baby changing stations in bathrooms that are used by everybody. You just can't. That is a waste of our taxpayer dollars if they do that. Just make some more family-only restrooms. Do that, and then maybe.
Well, that seems like an added expense regardless. You're saying not only are we not going to put this in the restrooms that exist, we have to then create a family-only restroom in a Starbucks, in a grocery store, or what have you.
Please show me a park, a business. Show me one where the baby changing station is adequately up to par, because there are plenty of businesses, plenty of supermarkets, plenty of every place that has them. They're all over the place now, and none of them are kept up. I get that we want it, but saying that this is some big initiative, this is just a lot of pomp and circumstance.
So you're saying that you are the opposition? We can't even agree on baby changing stations. He's for Waymo and against baby changing stations. What the hell is going on with this country?
I just assumed Tawala would be in the pocket of big baby changing.
I thought that he would be on the side of, yes, make it easier for me as a father, because I struggled when I had my young daughter as an infant and I had no place to change her when I was going to, Denny's.
When I went anywhere, you know what I carry with me in my diaper bag? A mobile changing station. They even had a little stand. You pull out the mat on it. All of that so I could keep her elevated and away from the scum of the counters and the villainy of the changing table. Those things are horrific when you walk in there as a parent and you smell the smell and you see that table sitting over there right next to the stalls. It's not.
I did not say put your child on the actual baby changing table. Put down some towels, a blanket.
Yeah, you know, they look. Oftentimes they don't even really have that. These changing tables have graffiti on them. Lots of times they're broken. So I hear you. We want this to happen. And I'm sure this is, oh yes, because I went into a place and I couldn't change my baby. And now I'm bringing it to legislation. You are wasting our time. That's what you are doing with this.
Why don't we just take out bathrooms altogether? Just have everyone hold it.
No. Start digging some holes.
Go back to outhouses.
Take it back to the scouts. Bury it deep so the bears don't get it.
Have you ever used an outhouse? I have.
They're terrifying.
You don't want that.
No, because outhouses are literally right on par with the damn porta potty.
No, porta potty is better than an outhouse. I promise you.
Dude.
It's a mobile outhouse, okay?
Yeah, I guess all I'm saying is I don't care if it's a wood toilet seat and this, that, or the other in your outhouse, a porta potty. All types of ungodliness happens in porta potties. Why are there needles in the bottom of the damn porta potty?
Okay, look.
Bowl.
All right, look. My father, God rest his soul, grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. Deep South. Projects poor. His family had an outhouse. And going out to visit him growing up, his family was still very poor. My father was the quote unquote richest person in his family, California middle class. And when we go visit his side of the family in the summer, we would use the outhouse on occasion. There is nothing scarier than using an outhouse in the woods of Lynchburg, Virginia at night. You got fireflies, you got mosquitoes, you got the Ku Klux Klan. Anything could bite you.
Damn.
It's called Lynchburg for a reason.
Yeah, that's true.
No, I would have much rather used a porta potty. You don't want that. I can't speak to a baby changing station table. I can speak to an outhouse. Give me a porta potty 7 days a week, twice on Tuesday, 5 times on Friday.
Then
because I'm very regular. And
now, I'm trying to think, maybe in summer camp, I had to go out because in the summer camp, I remember they had like little wooden, almost like looked like little phone booths that had little seats in them. Yeah. But the seats were at least plastic. It was still a big wooden
these were
thing. They
wood.
had a door. You go, you open up the door.
It was a door,
and there's a toilet seat.
They had to, no, the outhouse is a hole. It's a hole. And you sit down on this wooden like bench. And it was small enough where they could move it every week or so, and they fill in the hole.
Like, yeah, okay. So that's what they had at summer camp. Yeah.
But no baby changing station. That's where you draw the line.
I was summer camping. I was traumatized after that. But baby changing, I think that this is just something to get on later with Mo Kelly, but it's definitely not something worth investing any time in.
We can't agree on anything in this country. Baby changing stations are now controversial. Now it's about where are my tax dollars going. I'm not going to use my tax dollars for a baby changing station. F them kids.
Put those kids to work.
KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio. I am so disappointed in Twala Sharp. I thought he was going to come in here and actually back me up on this and say, yes, this is what fathers and young mothers need. They should not have to worry about where they're going to change their baby when they're out. Instead, so disappointed. Let's talk about the lottery when we come back. And if you want to talk about waste of money, California Lottery has raised $2 billion for schools for the third straight year. And for the third straight year, our schools are still trash. What is going on? What is going on?
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Time to go to school. Let's talk about public school. I remember when it was first broached, the idea that California was going to have a lottery, and that lottery was going to help support public schools. I remember it because I was in high school, South Torrance High School, This was 1985. So depending on when in the year, I was maybe a sophomore in high school. My parents, both public education teachers for all their career. They thought it was going to be a great idea. You would think on paper, when you have people basically participating in a legalized form of gambling to the tune of millions and eventually billions, and that would be discretionary for schools to add to their budget, that California's educational system, the public educational system, back in 85, thought that that was going to be the magic pill to improve our public schools. In 2024, California ranked 40th in education, public school education, 40th. Only 10 states worse, probably Mississippi, Louisiana, and 5 other states down south. I'm not kidding. That's what it usually turns out to be. But California, with a lottery and billions for schools, is still in the bottom third. California lottery officials announced Monday that the lotto games have raised over $2 billion for public education for the third year in a row. Quote, total sales once again exceeded $9 billion, resulting in contributions of more than $2.287 billion for public education programs statewide, from kindergarten to the community college, California State University, and University of California systems. This is according to lottery officials. Quote, I want to thank our players, retail partners, and employees for their decades-long commitment to our mission. That's California Lottery Director Harjinder K. Shergill Chima. Long-ass name. It is that commitment to providing supplemental funding to California public education that sustains our work across the state and allows us to perform year after year for all of California. Close quote. I am not blaming the lottery. They are providing the funds. I am blaming the state of California educational system. If the state of California had zero money for all of its schools, I'm quite sure $2 billion plus might be able to do it. You definitely wouldn't have everything. I'm not that naive. But $2+ billion. And we're still in the bottom third. We've raised more than $2 billion for the past 3 years, and we're still in the bottom third. And I say this as probably the biggest proponent of education you'll ever meet. I am all about education. All about it. Bottom third. And it's not getting any better. It's not like we just now ended up in the bottom third, maybe a year or two ago. I talk about this every single year. And ever since I've been on KFI, we have been in the bottom third. And ever since I've been on KFI, in 27 years before that, we've had the California lottery. So what does that mean? It means that it's not a money issue. It's not a lack of funds. It is obviously how they're being used or not being used, how our students are not being adequately educated, because clearly it's not a facilities issue. It's not a books issue. I know, depending on certain schools, some schools have more than others. I get all that. But big picture, collectively, California is not educating its kids. And it's not because of lack of resources. It's not that. I'm not saying that someone must be stealing money. I am saying we're not utilizing the money in a fashion which is actually educating our kids. Because if it were, we would not be 40th out of 50. Because the other 49 states don't have $2.3 billion on average annually to supplement their educational budget. It doesn't make any sense. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
KFI is literally the KFI of talk radio. KFI.
And KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live.